Good afternoon, hello, and welcome. If you're seeing this live, I welcome you to put in your questions, reactions, and responses. If you're watching this later, or if that's a time that's suitable to you, please sit back and enjoy the show. I have an interesting guest today, like every week. We have Neha Parashar, who started out in HR, and she says not so evil HR. And her career has evolved over the last 20 years into a place where she now helps people understand what their strengths are and points them in the right direction. So she was telling me just before we started the show that this is not exactly, it's a bit like sports coaching. Okay. And hi, Neha. Welcome to the
Hi,
show.
hi.
Thank you for having assented to come on, and I look forward to this conversation.
You talked me into it like a true media ad person, and but I like it. Thank you.
Okay. No, I'm sure that. So, Neha, like to pick up from where we just, before we started the show, what is it that you spend a lot of your time on these days?
So these days, I am a full-time coach, and when I say coach, the word is understood and misunderstood in many ways.
Right.
Initially, when I told my parents I coach, they thought of it as the IIT coaching, or what kind of coaching? The school coaching, tuitions. Are you going to take
Yeah.
tuitions? What coaching are you talking about? So that is our first foray into coaching, right? Competitive exams when we are thinking about. So that is true. There is that is coaching. There is
Yeah.
sports coaching. There is, I mean, any kind of input that helps somebody do better can fall under coaching as long as you're working with the person one on one and working specifically on them. So when I say I work as a coach, there are two or three areas that I specifically focus on. One
Okay.
is the interview coaching part that I was telling you about, which is for senior level people, um, which is like sports coaching. There is there is instruction, there is practice, there is a lot of one-on-one work on improving their skills around it. That, but that this is not exactly what we are. What is now the discipline of coaching as the International Coach Federation by their definition.
Okay.
In that coaching, or what we call developmental coaching to some extent, is uh, as a coach, I will not instruct, I will not advise, in which I will only be asking powerful questions to help my client uh, come to their answers by themselves. So,
Okay.
a lot of people
Th-
sometimes reach out to me for career advice. I said, I
mm,
can advise you, but that is not coaching. So that is a different aspect. Coaching will involve you doing the work.
right. And you
Okay,
putting
so
it, yes. Very true.
it's like going to the gym. So don't expect the instructor to work for you.
You still have to
No,
lift the weights.
absolutely. So
Yeah. Okay.
that's what I spend most of my time on currently,
Okay.
professionally.
Okay. So, how did it all begin? What was it like? Uh, go back to that time when you were in college and try to figure out what should I do next. So, if you could take it through those early days and then say, okay, where did it, how did this whole career come about? Where would you begin?
It didn't even start in HR, so to say. I
Okay.
heard you say I started my career in HR. Actually, it started uh, before that.
Okay.
So when I was in school, I mean, I was a good student academically, but and what was so in our times was that everybody will have to sit for entrance exams, right? Either
Right.
medicine, medical, or JE,
Engineering. Yeah. Jay.
right? Those are
Right.
the two key options available for science
Right.
students.
Right.
So I sat for the exams and then I did not make it. Okay, and
Okay.
then I was wondering what next. So I went to. So in those days, we had to go to colleges and get into lines and get physical forms, physical copies of forms, fill those out, submit it to those colleges, right? So I was visiting colleges in Delhi and trying to figure out what subjects would my marks qualify for, which are also of interest to me.
Right.
So, so I had several subjects in mind, you know, and I was exploring, and things like even geography and history and economics, and okay, what is it that where can I get into the cutoff thing?
Hmm.
Where do I qualify and what is of interest to me? And there I saw a line in one of the colleges for journalism.
Okay.
So you were starting out the, the bachelor's honors in journalism at that time, and that uh, that course had an entrance exam.
Okay.
So I said, whether let's sit for this. This seems interesting. This seems cool. It involves writing, reading, and who knows what else. So I sat for that
Right.
exam, and I did well in that exam, very well in that exam, and I got into journalism. So my first job, actually, since this podcast is about my first job, was actually interning as a journalist.
Okay.
HR came about after that.
Okay.
So that
So right. You interned at the Times of India. Now I recall that. Was it
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
So
So what
that
happened there?
what
What
happened there?
happened at the internship? Do you recall aspects of the internship?
Several, yeah, good and bad memories. Uh,
Okay.
so I'm just thinking about it. So I was so there we were first used to be put into the editing. We had to sub copies, and that was the first entry into the world of work. So the first
Okay.
few weeks we had to be on the editing table,
Hmm.
subbing copies,
Okay.
and I thought I used to like it until I got a very, very severe thrashing from one of the seniors for not
Oh.
knowing my job.
Okay.
So got a big so so this was got a huge scolding about, what have you studied? You haven't studied any of this, and what have you come here for? And that was at that time a that's a bad memory which I laugh about now. So that
Yeah.
I started my career with such a sound thrashing, which uh, which instilled in me more love for copy and
Okay.
correcting copy. And not
Okay.
to say that I don't make errors and typos now, I still do quite a lot. But that stint helped me develop a strong eye for errors.
Yes. Eye for detail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and um, so when both of us write on LinkedIn, and when I see people writing stuff like it does not matter, write anything, you can, grammar can be off, and don't worry about spelling, and I cringe about it. I said, like, how can you, like, especially professional writers, right?
Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
okay, so that was
Okay.
the first uh, foray into
Yeah,
work.
that was, yeah, but I think all of those are part of that little journey. So you do that. How long was the internship?
It was supposed to be 2 months, which continued further. So once I moved into writing for them, then we could
Okay.
write for longer, much longer, as long as we wanted
Okay.
to, as
Okay.
interns or freelancers or whatever whatever. I think interns only. We were called interns.
Okay.
So
And
after
then what
this,
happened? Yeah. And then what happened?
so I wrote for them for
After
some
the.
time,
Okay.
uh,
Okay.
for a very wide variety of subjects.
Okay.
Not into news. I wasn't interested in news then, not even now. Uh, uh, so in those times, there used to be a pull out just after the editorial page, and every week they used to cover a particular section. So one day it would be careers, another day it would be health, then it would be lifestyle. So every day the page opposite the op-ed was
Okay.
had one pull out section. Not pull out, it was a column kind of a thing. So I wrote
Okay.
for health, I wrote for careers at that time. Who knew where that would where that would go? My first article was actually about lingerie.
Oh,
So, so I was sent to write something about some, which was, and I stared at the editor who was asking me to do that, and she said, "It's your job. Go ahead and do it." I said, "Okay, fine. It's a job. I'll go and write about it." So my first article actually was on lingerie and
okay.
on health and career and education. So all of that stuff I wrote for them. And then when I finished my graduation, again I was at a crossroad. I didn't know what to do next. As in, I wanted to study more, and I wasn't sure what can one study more in journalism. It is it's supposed to be
Okay.
just go and start doing it. What's there to study more?
Right.
But I was also interested in, so in between. So I missed that. I did an internship with a production house as well. I don't know
Okay.
if you Romesh Sharma and Uma Gajapati Raju. They
Okay.
had
Okay.
this company called Moving Picture Company.
Okay.
So uh, so they were into producing. I think it was called India This Week, a show called India This Week.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I remember India this week.
I think
Long. When was this in the around?
it was late 90s,
Yeah,
97,
I think
98,
yeah, India
around.
this week. Yeah, TV
I
was
think,
just kind of coming into its own right.
yeah. So I was working with
Uh,
them on a program they were doing for the 15th August, 50th Independence Day of India. So they were preparing a special program for that. So I worked with
okay.
them on that, and I enjoyed that work. So I was doing research and writing bits, doing some voiceovers. So that experience was a very interesting one. So I thought the next step would be going into learning making documentaries and films.
Hmm.
So where could one do that? So I thought I would give a shot to going at Jamia,
Okay.
and so that required a lot of work. So I put a lot. I had an excellent portfolio. I mean, I thought the portfolio was great. All my articles, all my work with two kinds of media. Uh, but because now I'm connecting the dots as I'm talking to you, uh,
Hmm.
that was the first main interview that I failed.
Oh.
So, so there was an entrance exam there as well. I think I did okay there. The portfolio was good. I don't think I did well in the interview. It was the first very large panel that you kind of see in movies, like several people sitting across one candidate.
Intimidating.
An intimidating
It
panel.
can be.
Then
Yeah.
looking absolutely no smiles or laughter or levity, and
Wow.
so that was an intimidating interview. I did not
Yeah.
get through. So
Okay.
now I'm back again, wondering what next. So
Right.
so then HR happened. So I
Okay.
happened to. Uh, so I had my father had purchased forms, and SIBM was one of the forms that he had purchased, and it was, uh, I think, a fairly expensive form at that time for the entrance exam
Right.
there.
Hmm.
And I I did not know about anything about HR or management, or I
Okay.
was pretty clueless. But because the form had been purchased, and that was okay, so go sit for the exam as well. So I went and sat for that exam too, and I did well in that exam. Uh, but I was not serious about it because
Okay.
now that I'm thinking about it, I hadn't thought about. As I said, I wasn't clear about HR or management at all at that point of time. And when I'm thinking about it, I think I must have not been serious at all because typically the exams that I was very serious for, my father used to drive me down or come along with me for the entrance exam or an interview or whatever. He
Right.
would have come.
Right.
This one I said, not so important. I'll just take the bus and go. So,
Okay. That's all the important.
so,
Okay.
so I just told it. I said, which number? Just tell me which number goes to this place where they are holding the interview, or
I think what you're saying is resonating because one of the comments that has come up is this.
what does it say? I can't see it.
I want to work with you. Thanks. Yeah. So, yeah. So please continue. So you went for this HR, you filled the form and then you went there.
I'm telling you a lot of stuff that I haven't told anyone, Vinu, and I'm doing that on a show, so which is very okay. Anyways, so yeah, I landed there. The point that what I'm thinking about right now is that I must not have been too serious about it because I took a bus, which means your clothes get crushed and you're not like looking your best when you are there at the interview.
Yeah.
It's not you're very prim and proper, but okay, fine. Since they've called you for an
Right.
interview, go go for the interview and so on. So, anyways, very long story. Shortening it, landed in SIB.
Okay.
So that's where the HR journey began.
Okay. Okay. And what were your expectations at that point? You said, Acha, I've gotten. Now, did you have any expectations of the job? Did you know what things would be like? What was it like?
The jobs didn't turn out to be the kind of stuff that we studied, and I don't think that's surprising for anybody at all. Like we
Yeah.
study, there are textbooks and stuff, and we do that.
Right.
And the job is like you have to bring all of yourself again into the job,
Right.
whatever skills that you may have acquired from
Absolutely.
wherever, and acquire new ones. And then one wonders, this is not what the textbooks say. So
Yeah.
I think the beginning is to just get started in a career, and then one
Yeah.
has to build further on from there on.
Okay.
So no,
Okay.
yeah, I can't remember if I had any very specific expectations except let's
Okay.
get working.
Right. So then, what were the main functions as far as you were concerned in the first job? What did you start off with? Were you looking at recruiting people, talking to people internally? What happened?
So recruitment was definitely a big chunk, and I realized not because of my background in journalism, I somehow gravitated towards uh, elements of communication even within the HR role. So if it were like anything that required writing, newsletters or any kind of communication, and in recruitment also, I think I was excuse me, I was working for the first at least a couple odd years. I was working on recruitment ads in print media. So that
Okay.
was interesting. I thought it was similar to the kind of job I was doing. I was subbing again. I was editing
Mm.
copy. I was correcting copy, faxing, signing it off, then faxing again. So I remember, Friday evenings used to be Times Ascent used to go out on Wednesday. Used to get published
Right.
on Wednesday, and the deadline used to
Right.
be Friday evening. So I remember staying in every Friday evening used to be like a late nighter.
Chaos. Right.
Yeah. So it was, and we had faxes, right? So they used to edit some copy. The agency used to send me some copy. I used to read it, find some error, some comma, something, then send it back. So those were fax days, right? So sitting by the fax
Yeah.
machine, going ping, 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 fax is going. Then they make the
Yes.
change, then they send it back on fax again. Then I edit
Right.
the fax again, and then slowly the fax is going again. It almost sounds so primitive now, but Friday evenings
Yeah.
were on fax machine, uh,
Okay.
till the final sign off, till I signed off on the final copy for it to be published. So
Okay.
that was
Okay.
so in HR also it was a lot of recruitment. Uh, Sourcing side was ads, vendors, agencies, and so on. And otherwise, it was, yeah, interviewing.
So things were a blur, or you got a feeling that this is more or less something that I can do for a little while before I figure out what I want to do next.
No, at that point of time, I wasn't thinking what I want to do next at all. I was very immersed. I did
Okay.
not rethink. I think I landed in the right place.
Okay.
Gravitated to stuff that was of interest. So
Okay.
yeah, in fact, if I were to think about it now, uh, certain skills have continued throughout the career. Whether it was journalism, whether it was HR, now it is coaching. Uh, Communication of some sort has stayed.
Yeah.
Um, People interaction in terms of one-on-one conversations has stayed. I was doing exactly talking to people one-on-one while I was writing an article, for example, researching for an article. I'm doing that. I was doing that again when I was interviewing. I'm doing the same thing again in coaching. So these common, I can see common threads now after 20 years.
Right. So, what were the first experiences of interviewing people for their jobs like? You were a recent recruit, or you started talking or conducting interviews about 5, 6 months into your job, or was it a little later?
Yeah, soon after.
Soon
Actually,
after.
soon after, yeah, yeah. So,
Okay.
of course,
Okay.
the quality of interviews has evolved over time. Like initially, it would be like an initial cut, like you get it, the rookie to start doing the initial cuts kind of a thing.
Right.
Sourcing was big at that time. We were hiring in very large numbers uh, in the IT and ITES sector. So a lot of focus was on. It was almost like sales, like generating candidate pools, tapping into candidate pools. Uh,
Right.
so, and then interviewing, of course, evolved as I.
So, so then at that point, it was the method of shortlisting was to go through a number of resumes, figure out which ones made the cut, and then you
So
sort of
no AI,
ask them
nothing
to
that
come
time.
for an interview,
Yeah, no
or
AI, no, nothing of that sort at that time. It was
that's what I
absolutely raw.
wonder now. When it comes to AI, it's only looking for keywords. So how do you get past, and the number of volume of
Actually,
uh,
you know,
interviews? The thing has increased tremendously. So how is it that people are going through these numbers is mind-boggling.
see, even then we were doing it manually, but keywords were important then as well, right?
Right.
So, say
Right.
for example, if I was in the very beginning, say I'm hiring for, say, a particular software skill, for example, I don't understand the content, but I would sit with the hiring manager to understand what do you want me to look for
Okay.
and what is absolutely critical for you. What are the desirables for you? So, and then I would actually be looking for keywords, right? So I
Okay.
still remember, I was hiring for something that is stuck in my brain because we couldn't find people for that. At that point of time, there used to be enterprise Java beans. Now I can't remember
Okay.
for the life of me what that was.
Okay.
Enterprise Java beans, and so we were like going crazy looking for this particular skill set on a CV.
Okay.
I remember, there was a candidate whose name was Meheja Bean. So I said, I can't find a Java bean. Will a Meheja bean do? So, I think we get hired. So
Yeah. No.
we'll see if
And it's
transition to.
strange how these things just stick, the kind of things that stay with you. Like you said, it was so desperate and it
Yeah,
required to be filled, which is
yes,
why
yeah,
it kind of stayed with you. Now, of course, it's a, huh.
yeah.
So
Although that
then,
is redundant now, but it is
huh,
since the past that had, I hadn't thought about this for a very, very long time, Bean. So I hope Meheja Bean is not watching wherever she is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So then from recruitment, then what are the other aspects of HR that you began to handle, or how did things progress from there?
so recruitment has been very critical all through, even in senior roles. So talent acquisition, talent attraction has been important all through. Uh, and another big portfolio that I managed and I really enjoyed that was learning and development.
Okay.
So that was so, and then we call something called HR business partner, uh, which to me I think is everything is HR business partner. There's nothing which is non HR business partner, but we in HR have a role called business partner. So
Right.
recruitment and L&D or comp and ben, they are considered like COE roles. Like these are centers of excellence or whatever. These are like these are technical functional teams. Uh, HR business partner roles are in which somebody is assigned to partner with a particular business or business units and so on. So these are just role demarcations. Otherwise, I think every business, every role in HR is required to be a business partner. So,
Right.
so I've held all of these roles.
So, how would you make your decisions? Yes. Qualifications, yes. Keywords, yes. Interactions at the interview, yes. But was there something that told you that this person seems to fit the job, or this person may not be a good fit for the job? What are those things? Are those instinctive, or does it develop over time?
I think instincts also develop over time. Uh,
It's a
so
great way to
yeah,
put it. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I think experience matters there. Also, I think it is important to have robust processes uh, which can mitigate all things that we call as biases or the human intervention or subjectivity. Those will stay as long as these processes involve human interactions. They will stay, and I don't think there is something intensely wrong with that, because ultimately it is people who will be working with people.
Yeah.
So if all of my selection mechanisms say this seems to be a great candidate, but the for whatever reason the manager takes a dislike to a particular candidate, it may not work.
Yeah.
So hiring is not, it's not intensely objective. We can
Yes.
try making it so. Uh, we can bring in multiple decision makers into the mix, which is a good thing to do. Uh, but it is not one thing that will get somebody selected. It is
Okay.
a composite of things, and ultimately, I say this often. Ultimately, I think interviews are about showing competence, as in the candidate shows their competence, and the second thing is about comfort. Is the other party comfortable with you? So competence and comfort, these have to come together for somebody to be hired,
Hmm.
and then everything else comes from there, right? When we're talking competence, we are talking about all of these rounds and technical, whatever,
Yeah.
whichever way an organization wants to check the competence part. Comfort part is a lot to do with interviews, actually.
Hmm.
Do I feel comfortable? So all the people who are meeting somebody, do I feel comfortable seeing this person every day? Do I feel comfortable bringing this person on board? Are they going
Right.
to be productive? Are they going to be a pain in the back, pain in the neck, whatever? So is it going to be
Yeah.
difficult to manage? Are they going to be able to manage well? So all of this element is is the subjective element. We may
Yes.
do all of tests and everything, but uh, those are at best indicators of they give you certain
How?
pointers to explore further on. They are not. They
Okay.
cannot. They should not be decisive factors
True.
in this
Very
whole
true.
piece of things.
So then, what was there a trigger point for the next change in the company or in your career? What happened from there on?
Where were we?
At
Where?
your, you said you started off and the first place where you were doing recruitment,
Yeah.
and you said you
So
were
then,
immersed completely.
yes. So immersion, complete immersion has been there all through. I think
Right.
it's
It's one of your characteristics. You can only
not just
do it by.
not just mine. I think it's a huge misunderstanding or lack of misinformation if people think that HR doesn't have much to do. There's plenty to be there. There is a lot to do. There's a lot to do there, and I think
Okay.
all of the roles have been very immersive. Uh,
Right.
L&D again was a very busy and rich experience. Uh, Business partner roles are always
Yeah.
again very engaging and engaged. Uh, yeah, so subsequently it has been like moving from one organization or role to another.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
so moving to different or better opportunities until, of course, I decided that I will quit corporate and move wholly into coaching.
Okay. So here's one question, Neha. Does this happen? Like you said, it's subjective, so things could. So there are points. I like you said. I don't think that there is 100% that you decide that this person is right, and there are so many, you know, dynamic issues in between within a team, within the relationships between people. So, and do you think the interview itself is enough, or is there something that you have found is a better indicator of talent or ways to recruit people?
I don't think we've reached a stage or ever we will reach a stage where one can forego interviews. I think
Okay.
interviews will stay. Uh, when you say there's something else other than interview, I think we can keep refining our interview processes and interview skills.
Okay.
Is there anything that will replace it entirely? I do not know. I mean, it'll be, these are interesting times. Anything can happen. Tomorrow's week, something can come up which can replace that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, but if, as I said, if we are working with humans, I think humans would want to have that interaction to know whether this works or not. So it
Yeah.
is it is. I'm thinking of it. Arranged. It is like arranged marriage or love marriage, but the interaction will have to happen, right? It could be two meetings or one.
Yeah.
Uh, Earlier, it used to be none, but at least somebody used to meet somebody, right?
Yeah.
This is
But
not like
one of the things that I hear is that the number of rounds of interviews has increased exponentially in the last few years. What is that a result of?
I don't think it has increased exponentially over the last few years. I think it has varied based on. Uh, I think one very critical element could be the level of the role that somebody is being
Okay.
interviewed. So
Okay.
that could be one parameter. There are others as well, of course. But I would want to. So of course, I'm not saying organizations should continue interviewing people forever and take months to interview in. And I'm not a big believer in that. However, I think multiple rounds are as much in favor of the organization, as much in favor of the candidate as they are in favor of the organization. So
Okay.
I have, as a candidate, I've been through interview rounds like 7 or 8 interview rounds uh, for a particular role. And while that is a tiresome process, it gave me a lot of data and information about whether I truly want to work with somebody or not.
Okay.
So it is not as if the organization was evaluating. is evaluating a candidate ought to be evaluating the organization as well and the people that they're going to be working with. So I of course, I again say it is not. Uh, some organizations may have unnecessarily long processes. Uh, I don't know for what reason. It could just probably the process needs streamlining. Uh, but otherwise, I don't think we should be shy of at least a few interview rounds.
Okay.
If we are thinking of that job in the for the longer term, if it is like I'm here for a year or two, I know exactly what is required to be done. You check my skills, get me on, I will deliver, and I will get back. If it is as simple as that, which is possible in junior roles,
Right.
then there's no point in having a very very prolonged process. Shouldn't. Uh, as you move senior, when your role has more impact and is impacting more people, you're making more critical decisions. You want the person to stay on for the longer term. I think it is okay to have multiple conversations.
Right.
Another reason I think, which sometimes people, organizations call candidates over again and again, is when they like the candidate, but they are not quite sure where to fit them in.
Okay.
And that happens. That happens,
Okay.
it's like, for example, your CV comes to me and I say, excellent CV, looks like a great candidate. But I don't have a role ready for this person. It doesn't his
Okay.
or her skills do not fit just right into something that we are hiring for just now. So I would say I'd still want him to meet someone. Let's see if we can figure something out.
Okay.
So those are then conversations. I have done that. Like, some excellent candidate, I would say, I will get you to meet with 3 business leaders. And then let's see if something comes up from there. And the thing is, for candidates who are exceptional, who are doing very well in these conversations as well, the role may not come up today, but it may come 3 months down the line.
True.
And I think again it is a good, uh, it's great to have these interactions. Even if somebody does not get a role, then you have added 5 more people into your network. Uh, if you're doing well, they
Very
will
true.
remember you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where else will I get? It's not like now there's LinkedIn. Earlier there wasn't anything such. How would we get access to somebody at that level who will spend an hour talking to you?
Right.
So
So internally, how would you make these calls, Neha? In terms of having to move organizations? You worked with some very big names, Cisco and DuPont and G Capital, all extremely worldwide renowned names. So tell me what goes through your mind when you have to make a call and then say, okay, what is this organization going to be like? Or is it that what is it that I'm going to be doing that is different from what I'm doing now? What are the things that you use to assess
you're talking about as a candidate or as
as a
on the hiring side?
candidate? As a candidate, because now I'm saying I'm looking at your how is it that you made your personal choices, career choices?
I think they weren't very complicated.
Okay,
It was a good brand name
right,
and uh, a good role, as in either expanding further into what I'm doing currently, or something newer, and so growth in that terms. And very importantly, the people I'm going to be working with.
okay,
So
okay.
these were uh, these were some important parameters.
So you had to have a level of comfort when you met them, saying that yes, these are people I think I can get along with, or those are going to be part of. They were part of the decision framework that you
Very
deployed.
important. They were a very important part of the decision making, and I believe, okay, I believe for myself it should be. I
Yeah.
recommend that candidates also be as evaluative,
Okay.
because you're going to give your blood, sweat, and tears to that place
Right.
once hired. So you might as well uh, decide well if you have.
True. Now, Neha, there are a couple of things which I want to ask about, saying that now there is a lot of market chatter, let's say on Glassdoor or some of the others, where people put up their reviews or of workplaces and all of those things. How do you think that has impacted the overall recruitment scenario? And what is it that, how should people navigate through something like that?
I do recommend researching as much as possible.
Okay.
Um, that is that is important, and it is all the more important now because there are a lot of organizations that are young organizations. They haven't really they have a they are when I say young, not just in I mean in longevity.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are
They have very young, yeah, managers at the top as well. Or that's
not
part of
just
the
in
thing.
terms of the fix, but they have been around for a short while already, and especially
Okay.
the startup
Okay.
world and everybody. So they are these are
Right.
you wouldn't find too many alumni to talk to. They have not been written about. We don't know about their practices. Interestingly, most of the
Right.
organizations I have been, or people go for big brand organizations because those have been around. These are big ships. Their processes are in place. Uh, there are so there is little risk of where you're going to land. There's enough. If they have poor practices, one, they wouldn't have stayed on for as long, and
True.
two, you would hear of them. They will there is news about them. I mean, there's content about. When you research, you would know whether it is worth going to or not. There is something you would know about their culture and all. So those are the safer bets in that way. But with now so many new organizations that are coming up, and and with good opportunities as well, I think it is very important to research culture, and again the team or the manager you're going to be with, because there is little else you can do.
Yeah. Very true.
You can't do anything about the health of the organization. You can research about it. uh, you can research about financial health. You can research about uh, where they are on their business
Okay.
trajectory.
Yeah. Now, when people enter their first job, they're looking for a few things, which is okay, large company, well known, pay packet. Now, what do you think they should prioritize? Learning, role, and pay. If I have to take three aspects of a job, what should they be spending the initial years on?
You know, we go by a rule of thumb. We say at least two of these.
Okay.
So don't compromise on. If you have all three, terrific, absolutely.
Okay.
But don't move just for one. At least have two things in the mix. A
Okay.
great role which improves your further career prospects. Uh, Great pay, which again, which is one important parameter of a good role. Which is the third one? Did you say?
Learning.
Organization. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
match short term and long term, to as
Right.
much as possible. So if
Okay.
you're moving only for pay and the other two don't match up, then you're compromising your long term for the short term. If you're only looking at a great brand name but the role is no good, or pay probably will be maybe whatever. Uh, Again, you're compromising long term and short term. So try to strike a balance there.
Okay.
Don't go for just one parameter unless that is very critical for you.
Right. In your opinion, is there a way that you can figure out when it is time to move? Or there is this old wisdom saying that, okay, every time you get a recruiter's call, go ahead and take it just to figure out what your market value is. But make your decisions based on where you think you should be going. So, what exactly is your take on that?
It is personal for everyone. It is hard to. It should not be that my friends are moving every year, and I've been here for 3 or 5 years, and should I be moving now? Or
Yeah.
neither should it. So it cannot, it is a personal decision. Again, I think it is important to frequently evaluate whether you're adding value to yourself. I mean, of course, then of course you can add value. Only if you're adding value to yourself will you continue to add value to your
To the
environment as well,
organization.
the
Yeah.
organization as well. So that is something that I think we should continue to evaluate. Not every 6 months, but at least every year, every couple of years. Uh, I don't. I have seen very young people in early career saying, I'm not making an impact in 3 months or 6 months. It doesn't.
Yeah, which is you can't make an impact. It's just
You
that
can,
kind of
maybe
idea.
you can, maybe you
Yeah,
can, uh,
yeah.
but I mean, if somebody does exceedingly well on social media, they can probably make an impact in 6 months, maybe, maybe.
Right.
Uh, but early on in your career, I think it is time to learn, and learning. Uh, I think it is. I think there is a value to mundaneness, which I think some of our young friends get bothered by very quickly. It is repetitive and it is mundane and it is
Yes.
3 months
I
down,
was just,
I'm doing exactly the
yeah,
same thing. It's 6 months, I'm doing
right.
exactly the same thing. I think there is some value to that because, I mean, how does learning happen? Learning happens when some deviation happens. So I'm doing repetitively a task 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 10th time there might be a slight deviation. Something will either break down in the process or some parameter will change. Something will happen which breaks that repetitiveness, and it is addressing that where the learning comes from. But if
True.
we give up on that opportunity to, and then there'll be another long period of repetitiveness, and then something will happen which is a deviation, and
Right.
handling that deviation is the learning.
True.
So if we give up with that repetitiveness, we will never reach the point too quickly. One, we will not gain from the learning that comes from the skill that comes from repeating something. And two, we will not arrive at a place where we are able to learn from that deviation.
True.
Am I making sense? I mean, it is.
Absolutely. No, and I'll just relate this to writing copy.
Okay.
The first 10 lines that you come up with are all cliches. They've all been used. It gets progressively more difficult to write the 20th line for the same ad. So a lot of people today they say, but the deadline is tomorrow, so I don't have time. But the point is that unless you keep writing the cliches, you will never come up with something original. You have to cross that. So, like you mentioned, you have to cross a river. You have to steadily take one stroke after another, and at some point, you'll reach the other shore. There's no change in that, but you have to persist. So, I don't think it. So, whatever you just said makes so much of sense, and that is one of the things which I think you pointed out, which is very important: the importance of mundaneness. I would have said boredom. They're scared of boredom today. You shouldn't be, because you should, that's a phase.
See, a job is not for entertainment. We have to
Yes.
derive joy in that job, and the
Right.
joy comes. There is joy to working at something, developing something, meeting a challenge.
Right.
There is joy in that. So I don't boredom. I mean, be afraid of boredom when it has been you've stopped learning entirely.
Right.
Uh, so
Right.
now I realize cycle times have shortened. Organizations are moving at a tremendously fast pace.
Right.
Uh, now it is between boredom and burnout, either one or the other.
Okay. Yeah, that's the other side. That's the other extreme. Yeah, very true. So, in your personal frame of reference, when did you think it is time to branch out and, your pivot of helping people or become a coach? When did that happen? How did that process come about?
See, it isn't a very big deviation if I were to think of it that way. Uh, it
Okay.
is uh, it is it is a deviation of the sort that, of course, from being employed and pursuing with a corporate career, breaking out and branching out and becoming self-employed. In that way, it is a big deviation. But what it actually is in terms of work is that I've taken a tiny sliver of the work that was anyways a part of my job all these years, last 20 years, and just zoomed in on it
Okay.
and enlarged it tremendously. So in HR also we are talking to people one on one, and I enjoy doing that. Uh, it requires listening skills. It requires empathy. It requires non-judgment. It requires allowing and giving yourself the space for reflection. So all of those are part of the role that you're playing in HR as well. Of course, they are never part of the KRAs. You're never
Right.
rewarded or promoted for it, but they are part of doing your job well.
Right.
So I have just picked that sliver and enlarged it substantially into a full-time role.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so that is the if the yeah that is the kind of pivot that it is. I wouldn't say it is a. Um, I haven't changed track, so to say, entirely, and uh, have I? Maybe, but that's how I think of it.
Okay. Okay. So, what is it that people who have, like you said, you help senior people, what is it that they're really worried about? Is it that they, when you act as a coach and you tell them you must actually do it, what are the things that they're struggling with? Is it articulation? Is it an understanding of where their career should be going?
It could be any and all of these, Venu.
Okay.
So it could be when I say senior, uh, I typically work with people who would say at least have like 15, 20 years of experience. Uh, so on the executive coaching side, it could be how to be doing better at what they are doing in terms of how to be better leaders, how to work better for in the role that they are in. And at that stage in the career, it is not as much about skills. I think they have developed and they have arrived where they have having a very robust skill set. It becomes a more the conversation becomes more about uh, the person who then is the role.
Yeah.
So it becomes more self work, which then starts manifesting in better outcomes at work as well. It will. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It is not dissociated. So
Right.
that could be the executive coaching part. Career coaching, if somebody typically people would reach out to me for uh, wanting to make transitions, for example, or struggling with some career dilemmas or decisions, or again, what to do better and how to grow further. Those would be typical, and then of course, then the roots can be anywhere. It could be a skill issue. It could be a inner work that is required, or uh, say for interviews, it is nothing but that's a different piece
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah.
That's uh, so yeah.
So,
These
how
are
would you respond to this, Neha? Sorry.
what is the question?
Is there a lot of human psychology involved in what you're currently doing? It career, I think,
I have
especially
not
helping
studied.
people. You
I
didn't
have not
see that?
studied psychology. I have not studied
Yeah.
psychology.
Right.
But is one a student of human behavior? Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so yes, that is there. Uh,
Okay.
there could be intersections, definitely, but I'm trained as a coach, not as a psychologist.
Okay. What is the hardest thing to assess in an interview, Neha?
We can go wrong anywhere.
Okay.
Let me put it that
Okay.
way. We can go wrong anywhere. Uh,
Right.
when I'm on the other side where I'm coaching people to uh, deliver better performance in interviews, uh, I insist. I mean, I recommend and I work with them to work on their areas of strength, highlighting what they have, what they can bring to the table, uh, what their what their unique propositions
Right.
are
Qualities are. Yeah.
can be of help to the other party. Um, so, what is the hardest thing to assess is what you're asking. I don't know. I'm
No,
thinking
no,
about it.
I'm saying it see, okay, one thing that comes for me is how determined is the person and how much an effort will they put in once they've taken on. Those, I think, are realizations that happen after the person joins, or characteristics that you figure out later. Or is there some way of determining if from
See,
a past experience?
yeah, a lot of interviews are about past experiences. So it
Okay.
is,
Okay.
we are demonstrating a trajectory. We are demonstrating uh, this is how I have done it or been successful, and you
Okay.
know, there's a high probability I will bring the same skills or this the same mindset to the new job as well. But it is not. We say past is a predictor of future, but it is an imperfect statement.
Yes.
We cannot truly assess. So yeah, what is the hardest thing to assess? I think potential is the hardest to assess. We say we are assessing it,
Yeah.
uh, but it is very audacious to say that we can assess human potential. I mean, there are enough number of
Very true.
stories
Situation. Yeah, that's true.
to completely demolish that.
Yeah.
So there's lots of work on the side of lot of research and work that has gone into assessing potential. I don't know why it is whether we are very successful.
Great. So it's almost an hour, but I had no idea that it would pass so quickly. But tell me, for people who are entering the profession right now, what do you think that they should be concentrating on? Communication, like you mentioned right at the beginning, is one of the most important skills.
Hmm.
Written skills, uh, reading. What are the things that you would say are what young people should focus on today when they are looking to enter or get noticed at an interview?
At an interview, okay,
I mean, it starts with the application, of course, but
yeah, I think very simply, one, prepare for the interview. Don't try to wing it. And this is something that I continue saying even at senior levels. And it is more required actually there. Uh, so don't, so prepare. That is one.
don't fake it till you make it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not taking it, and I speak that from
Yeah,
my personal experience. I mean, the interviews that are not one is not prepared, uh, move differently. You know the difference. You know
right.
the difference.
Absolutely.
So one, prepare.
Absolutely.
Uh, so that is what I would suggest to youngsters as well. The other would be to collect experiences, all kinds of experiences, depending on what you like to do. It need not be academic. It need not be in, only job oriented. But when you collect experiences, that is, you're basically collecting stories that make you more endearing in an interview. Uh, because, say, if you're talking to young people, right? So, for example, in campuses or if you're hiring there, uh, they are all at a similar IQ level, you know, give or take, plus or minus a little. They are all at a similar. They've studied the same stuff. They are all have similar academic histories. You will differentiate yourself by these these experiences that you have collected. So, and that actually continues further down the your career as well. I recommend keeping a career inventory. Keep
Oh, that's a lovely term. Career inventory.
Yes, uh,
Okay.
yeah. So if you don't want to do that, keep a record of your just keep your performance appraisals documents with you every year on year. That starts becoming your inventory. These are
Okay.
experiences that you've collected through the years, and these all will come handy when you appear for your next job or when you have to look back at your career to see what kind of skills you've acquired. uh, so whether you want to journal it or keep a record of some of these things, of the good moments, of the failures, of the challenges, of the new things learned. uh, so collect
Oh,
experiences and keep
wonderful.
a record.
Wonderful, Neha. Career experiences, collect experiences, and maintain a career inventory. I think that is wonderful advice. You may not have it to begin with, but it's something that you can build with practice over time. And I think that's really where it was wonderful listening to how you arrived at what you did and how you almost seamlessly managed to move through the career experiences so far. And I think that the clarity of thought and the sincerity with which you've approached every single one of your assignments comes through loud and clear. So, thank you for spending the time, Neha. Any closing thoughts? Anything that you'd like to leave us with?
It has been it wasn't as daunting as I thought it would be.
Wonderful.
To reverse the roles, because as I was telling you, I as a coach, I ask questions, and it is the client that who has to do the thinking. And then we reverse the roles. Uh, it was enjoyable, and it was lovely to revisit some of the experiences in my inventory that I had forgotten.
Okay.
So thank you for this opportunity, and
Wonderful.
I hope your
Wonderful.
listeners, viewers, take something away
Yes.
from
I'm sure they
what.
will. I'm sure there's a lot for them to think about because that's really, it's not answering all questions. Sometimes, as long as you leave people thinking with what they should do next, we've arrived at, we've sort of done the job. Thank you, Neha. Thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much. Thank